services. For Me is the complete service management platform that enables seamless collaboration between multiple service providers. For Me's cutting-edge architecture enables cross-enterprise visibility and control of services. For Me is built to adapt to the speed of demand. Any new service can be added in no time. For Me is really fast to implement and offers complete licensing flexibility. Transform your service delivery while saving costs and improving quality. Visit the For Me website and request a demo now. Are you looking for a smart way to coordinate your internal and external services? For Me is the complete service management platform that enables seamless collaboration between multiple service providers. For Me's cutting-edge architecture enables cross-enterprise visibility and control of services. For Me is built to adapt to the speed of demand. Any new service can be added in no time. For Me is really fast to implement and offers complete licensing flexibility. Transform your service delivery while saving costs and improving quality. Visit the For Me website and request a demo now. Are you looking for a smart way to coordinate your internal and external services? For Me is the complete service management platform that enables seamless collaboration between multiple service providers. For Me's cutting-edge architecture enables cross-enterprise visibility and control of services. For Me is built to adapt to the speed of demand. Any new service can be added in no time. For Me is really fast to implement and offers complete licensing flexibility. Transform your service delivery while saving costs and improving quality. Visit the For Me website and request a demo now.
Herkese iyi günler. BThaber Şirketler Grubu'nun isim babası olduğu fijital etkinliğimize hoş geldiniz. Karlı bir İstanbul gününde Pera Palas'tayız ve fijital etkinliğimizin bugünkü konuğu da bize San Francisco'dan katılan Cor Winkler Prins'i, For Me CEO'su. For Me, kurumsal süreklilik odaklı, kapsamlı çözümleriyle sorularımızı yanıtlayacak. Mr. Cor Winkler Prins'i, thank you so much for attending this event.
Thank you.
I think it's your first time in Istanbul and with the snow.
I love it. It's beautiful.
Really?
Yeah, it's magical.
Great then. So let's begin, because we've got a limited time, as we mentioned. First of all, I'd like to ask, what kind of structure and importance has institutional continuity gained with the pandemic? And how are the requirements and priorities are shaped right now?
Yeah, it's very interesting because when the pandemic started, nothing really changed for us as a company. And the reason why is that our company doesn't have an office. So we have now about 51 people in 13 countries.
13 countries.
Yes.
So let's say thanks to the pandemic.
Well, the interesting thing was because we were organized this way, where everybody has a home office. So during the pandemic, it was like, what is everybody so worried about, right? But then we got a lot of questions from our enterprise customers, like how can you provide continuity during the pandemic? And we were like, just like we always do, right? We're always here for you. We can support you remotely. But then we started to think about it. They are working in the office. That was their normal mode of operation. And when consultants would come in from our partners, we always train our partner organizations to perform the implementations for the For Me product. Then these consultants would actually physically go on site with the customer and do the implementation. So they were, of course, worried that the support that they've been relying on from our partners was going to fall away because of the pandemic, because of not being able to go to the office anymore. So what we did is we checked with all our partners and we said, okay, really, For Me is so simple to implement. Why are we still going to their offices at all? And then our partners responded, well, maybe you don't know this, but we will still go on site, but just for the kickoff meeting. Yeah, and maybe a workshop or two, but all the training, for example, of the employees, it's all been done remotely already. So the transition for our partners, which was more important than for us, they made it very easily also. And what we see now is that our partners are much more effective, because in the past they would go for a half-day training session, for example, on site with the customer. But because of all the travel and such, that consultant who is providing the training has wasted a whole day, essentially.
Yes, time and cost.
Exactly. Now doing it online, we can spend or our partners can spend a few hours with a customer, only charge for those few hours rather than a whole day, and then go to the next customer online. It's not as pleasant often, because it's nicer to meet in person like we are today, but it's very efficient this way. And what we also saw from the moment that the pandemic hit and everybody stayed home, not a single one of the ongoing projects that were already in flight, that had a strict target date for going live with the For Me solution, none of them were delayed. They all made their target.
No interruption.
No interruption whatsoever. I was really surprised myself. But what our customers have learned, they've had plenty of interruptions. So we had customers that run restaurants at airports all around the world. We had customers that provided meals for airlines. We had customers that ran cinema complexes. Yeah, all of them were very, very badly hurt by the pandemic. And it was tough for them. But then for them, this is not really continuity, but resilience, corporate resilience. What we offer them, and this is something we have been offering to all our customers from the start, when they acquire licenses for me, they consume them, the users that consume them, we charge for those. But since these companies that I just mentioned that were badly impacted, they were furloughing their people, so they put a hold on their people, but normally the software licenses are still being charged. Yeah. But with our solution, what we told all our customers is disable the user records, so you don't consume these licenses anymore. And then when the users come back, you start consuming them again. But it really helped them financially during the pandemic. And we hope that more software vendors are going to provide that ability to put licenses on hold and change to a consumption model of software licenses.
Pay as you consume.
Exactly. Because corporate resilience is really important. And what we have found since, we've been doing this for more than 10 years already, but we always had to explain this over and over again to purchasing managers of large enterprises. They're used to Oracle and SAP, and they have a certain idea of how a software license should be structured, how you need to negotiate it. It takes months. It's very complex, and they're never quite sure if they did the right thing. And what we've tried to do is make it really, really simple. But we've made it so simple,
easy to manage,
that they wouldn't trust us. They were like, there has to be a catch somewhere, right? And now that we see consumption in the SaaS world, in the cloud world, becoming more of a standard, it's become a lot easier. But we always encourage these procurement managers to focus more on this resiliency. And that is just part of continuity, we feel, for a large enterprise. And now, if we come back to your question about continuity, what we found, or what our customers found, is that they still run a lot of on-premise solutions, relatively old solutions, that relied in terms of security on being within the corporate network. And the corporate network was shielded, protected. So when people had to work from home, they couldn't get to these applications, or they had to log in through a VPN first, and it was really slow. And so
slow, and how about the security?
Well, exactly. The security was a big concern all of a sudden. So we saw that our customers, at least, they noticed that for me, there was no issue, because it's been built for the cloud, right? It's secured from the laptop, essentially, of the person working from home to our data centers. Everything is encrypted. Everything at storage, at rest, is encrypted. So there was nothing for them to do with us as a modern cloud solution. But for the old solutions, they still had quite a lot of work to do. And what we are experiencing now, what most of our industry has experienced, is that modern cloud solutions all of a sudden took off a little bit faster than they had been. They had been growing quite quickly as well, but during the pandemic there was an inflection point. It really sped up the replacement of the old systems for new systems that were already cloud-based and that people could use anywhere. They wouldn't need to go to the office to connect securely.
And by the way, much more cost-effective and much more efficient.
Agreed in most cases, yeah.
Depends on the sector.
Well, I have to admit that I'm a little disappointed by many cloud companies.
Service providers.
Yes. Vendors.
Vendors, sorry.
Software vendors. In the sense that the cloud, theoretically, should allow a software vendor to be much more efficient, because they run the software for the customers. They have everything under their control to help the customer efficiently. They don't need to go to the customer to fix anything, to upgrade anything. They can all do it for the customer.
Remote
They're
access.
in control, right? And as they grow, the efficiency, the economics of scale start to really kick in for cloud vendors. Adding an additional customer should cost hardly anything extra.
Can we say they weren't ready for that hype?
Yeah, well, what I've seen is that if we look at the old way of structuring software licenses, where you pay a lot in advance and then a maintenance fee annually, that was fairly expensive. But now, if we look at cloud solutions, it's still pretty darn expensive, most cloud solutions. And I am not seeing the customers really benefit all that much from the economies of scale that the software vendor should be able to benefit from. But there's a reason why this is. And it's because many SaaS service providers that deliver software as a service, they deliver it in a hosted model. So whereas in the past they would send a CD with the software and the customer had to put the infrastructure in place, install the software and run it, now they do that for the customer. They put an infrastructure in place, a virtual server, a database, they slap the software on top of it, and then the next customer comes and they do the same thing again. Now they have tens of thousands of infrastructures to manage, so they've created a mess for themselves internally, which is expensive to manage. So that's why they themselves are not really benefiting as much from the economies of scale that they now have. And for me, has been able to do this because we started a little bit later, and we essentially have a very different architecture. We have a massive production environment. But adding one customer to that production environment, still the same production environment, consumes maybe a little bit more processing power, a little bit more storage. but the costs are minimal nowadays. So as we grow, what we have seen for the past 10 years, we have been able to keep the costs pretty much constant, but we've been adding a ton of functionality. So the software now is about 10 times as large in terms of functionality that it used to be, where it used to be essentially an incident management tool. Now it's project management, it's time tracking, it's knowledge management. There's all this additional functionality, and the customers, they've been getting so much more without suffering the price increases.
So that makes their life much more easier.
Yes, yes.
How is for me meeting corporate needs in this new normal world?
Yeah, we already were.
Yeah. For 10 years,
yeah.
okay, but right now, especially for last 2 years with the pandemic.
Yeah, what customers have been doing is that they've been running ITSM solutions internally to manage the processes within their IT departments. Within the IT departments, they do incident management, asset management, change management, the usual stuff. And these solutions that they use for that, they were very much focused just on the IT department. They were relatively expensive, heavy in terms of the maintenance effort that they require, in terms of customizations, having to do upgrades themselves, etc. Now, when they move off of the old solutions and onto a modern solution like for me, what they find is, okay, first of all, they don't have to worry about upgrades anymore. They don't have to have servers anymore that they need to pay for. They can use it anywhere on any device securely. But what they can do in addition, and this is new, and it's not strictly related to the pandemic, but they can work together in for me with their external providers, the ones that are also already on for me. So what we've seen happening during the pandemic, again, this inflection point that we saw it also with digital transformation. So because of the pandemic, a lot of digital transformation initiatives were introduced more quickly than organizations had originally planned. So if you think, for example, somebody ordering something online, maybe a product, they already see whether that product is in stock. So the website is integrated somehow to the inventory management system that they have in their warehouses. They know where to get it, and they know how to get it to the consumer the next day. There are a lot of systems that are integrated, and this is the digital transformation that we're going through.
Everything talks with each other.
Yes. So we saw that level of integration, the transformation, making everything digital essentially, that is going faster now. But because of this, enterprises are relying on more external providers than they have in the past. So in the old days, an enterprise would outsource a certain number of services to an external party, maybe to Accenture or IBM or EDS. They would basically give the IT department away to an external party. Nowadays, what we see is that enterprises are really struggling to find the IT talent that they need. So they're kind of forced to outsource anyway, right? Because there's a shortage of IT talent all over the world.
Yes.
Yeah. And what we see now is that IT talent, if I were, for example, somebody who's really excited about SAP, I love ERP, I love tinkering in SAP, I like to help organizations configure their SAP environment. I love that. Do I want to work for a specific company, or would I rather work for a company that supports multiple enterprises with their SAP environment and where all my colleagues are SAP experts that I can learn from? I want to work for the latter, right? So what we're seeing is now that the war for IT talent is being fought by these specialized MSPs, managed service providers, that specialize in SAP, in Salesforce, in WordPress for the corporate website, in Azure, in AWS. There are all these specialized external providers nowadays. And in order to realize a digital transformation objective, a lot of these parties, they need to come together to help the enterprise put the puzzles of the pieces of the puzzle together to actually realize their digital transformation initiatives.
And thanks to the IT human source lake.
Yes, yes.
Not a lake, let's say ocean.
Well, or many little lakes. Specialized lakes that come together for an enterprise to realize a particular digital transformation initiative. But what we have now seen is that because customers have so many external parties that they rely on, they need to manage these relationships. But also operationally, they need to pass work to them. Hey, can you help me with that? We have an incident with that. You need to pass on a day-to-day basis many tickets to these parties, and you need to be able to track whether they are responding quickly enough, fixing things in time. And all that operational stuff needs to happen efficiently as well. You cannot have an enterprise employee reporting an issue in the service management tool of the enterprise and then have to re-enter that ticket in the self-service portal of the external provider to get them to fix it. That is terribly inefficient, right? So now we see that organizations are realizing that for service management, there's an additional aspect to it called SIAM, Service Integration and Management, where they have essentially a methodology, SIAM, to not only operationally work with all these different parties, the external ones, but also the internal teams that they still have in the IT department, but also how to manage them over a longer term and see whether they have been ISO 27001 audited, etc. Yeah, and look at whether the enterprise employees are happy with the services that they obtain, that they get from the enterprise, and whether the different parties meet their SLA objectives, but also how much do they cost, for example. But coming back to, how has this really impacted the enterprises? What we have seen is that because they started to move more quickly with the digital transformation initiatives, they are now working with even more external providers to help them with these initiatives. They see that the need to manage this complexity, they need to somehow simplify it. That is where tools that do service management support, but also SIAM, that's where they come and help. But once they get into that, they have started to realize that within the enterprise, we also have digital transformation initiatives. So, for example, to digitally transform the enterprise, one of the things we see that is really fundamental in the enterprise is they are introducing the enterprise self-service portal. So everybody's working remotely, right? But people still need help when they get stuck in their job. They need to be given a URL, a website where they can go to from the company to get help. It could be that they need to access the ERP system, and they can't today, or they need a new report, for example, and then they contact the IT department. That's typical. But they need a lot more help from HR. Maybe they got a pay stub, and there's a tax that has been deducted from it, and they don't understand why. It's a question they have. Hopefully the knowledge article on that tax code will provide them the answer. But they should be able to get that from that enterprise self-service portal. So that's something they're introducing. And what we subsequently see then, that behind this enterprise self-service portal, there needs to be a workflow engine.
Workflow engine.
Yes, so a lot of the requests that come in, they have a pretty standardized flow, a number of steps that need to be completed by people. Maybe an approval needs to be provided to give access to the ERP system to a certain person, and then maybe an automated task actually takes care of providing that access. Yeah. So this workflow engine that IT needs actually can also be used in HR, but also in purchasing, in marketing,
Stock
in
managing.
legal. Exactly. It becomes the workflow engine for the entire enterprise. Yeah? And that is what we see organizations doing now. They're not just digitally transforming for their end customers, but also internally.
In-house.
In-house, yes.
What corporate needs does For Me meet and how? Could you tell us about integration architecture and competence and your business partnerships, as you mentioned?
Oh, that's three whole questions.
Yes.
Yeah, let's start with the first part. So what needs do we meet? Well, it's actually, if I dumb it down completely, right? On the one hand, For Me is a solution that supports a lot of processes. Yeah, like I said, incident management, change management, asset management, problem management, service level management, but also things like time tracking, demand management, portfolio management, project management, time tracking, knowledge management is really important, particularly for HR. So that is, from a functional point of view, kind of what we do. But fundamentally, it's just this: an enterprise self-service portal, a workflow engine, to take the requests, the different types of requests that people may have, and assign the right steps with the right instructions to the right people at the right time, in the right sequence. And then the third part, so the self-service portal, the workflow engine, the third part is simply analytics, reporting. Where do things take longer than they should? Where are there opportunities to improve? That is what we provide to the enterprise.
How about the integration architecture
So
and your partnerships?
yes. Well, again, two different questions that are quite distinct. So let's focus first on the integration aspect.
Yes, because the integration is the most critical part, I think, right now. For the enterprises, for the users.
Depends on how you look at it. I believe that there are more important things that managers are worried about, but it is very important. We'll get to that in a little bit, okay? But the integrations are certainly very important. So what we have said from the outset with For Me is that For Me needs to be the service management solution that is the easiest to integrate with. We were the first ones with a full comprehensive REST API when REST became popular. After the SOAP disaster, REST became quite popular. But nowadays, the latest thing is GraphQL, popularized by Facebook. It's very, very powerful integration capability. and we are currently the only ones in the service management industry with a complete API based on GraphQL. So developers really like that.
Because it's end-to-end.
Well, it is a really smart way of using APIs. It's a very efficient means of integrating with another solution. So for me, provides that, but it's for developers. Yeah, it's still quite technical, but it allows developers to create integrations. Now, what we've done in addition, we have built the app development framework for me, again for developers. But what they can do, based on OAuth authentication, they can build really secure integrations with for me. So with the app development framework, what they can do is they can build, for example, an integration between, let's say, WhatsApp and for me. So people can submit requests just using their mobile phone with WhatsApp. I need help with this. Such an integration is then published in the For Me App Store, thanks to the app development framework that we provide. So a developer can put a secure integration into our app store. We can then check it and publish it to all of our customers so that they can easily activate such an integration without having to do any of the development work themselves. That is how we approach it.
Much more fast and efficient way.
Well, and secure.
And secure.
Yeah, which is of course really important for our customers, yes.
How about the feedback of the companies? Do they share opinions with you about this architecture, and what do they want to see more? What are their expectations?
Good question. So first of all, the feedback that customers provide, they provide it to us directly, of course, but there's also independent research on this. So Gartner, they have a website where organizations, enterprises can leave feedback about the solutions they use in-house. It's called Gartner Peer Insights. And there's a section on service management as well, so all the different service management solutions that are available. You can basically compare them against each other. So you can look at For Me and ServiceNow and BMC Helix, Sherwell.
That easy.
Not easy?
That easy.
That easy, yes, indeed. It's very user-friendly, that website, and what is nice about it is that Gartner verifies whether this feedback actually comes from real customers. So you cannot basically fake nice feedback for your own product. So that is what we always recommend organizations look at when they decide not just for service management tools, but also for ERP tools or whatever. They can compare, and they can, for example, see whether a company would recommend that solution for other companies. There's a net promoter score, essentially. And that is a good thing to look at, but there's a lot more detail about the feedback that customers provide about different aspects of the solution, the pricing, the ease to implement, etc. And when you then look at that website, then we get the highest score in terms of the willingness to recommend. But also on other aspects, the pricing flexibility, the support. It's very, we always encourage organizations to do the comparison there. Yeah.
Can you share details about your strategy and targets, both for this year and for middle term?
Yes.
When it comes to For Me.
Good. So yeah, you mentioned that integrations are the most important thing, and yes, they are very important. But we believe and this is what our strategy is based on, that there's something more important that managers need. And a lot of organizations do not consciously realize that what they do in the IT department, for example, is they provide services, yeah, like the ERP service based on SAP or Oracle or whatever, the simple one, the email service, right? There are a whole bunch of services that the IT department provides to the enterprise employees. These services, they are the tools that the enterprise makes available to its employees so that the employees can be successful, efficient, effective, productive.
And helps also business continuity.
Absolutely. Yes, that's an important aspect of the service delivery. It's not an asset like a server. That in itself doesn't do anything. To make it into a service, a piece of software is an asset. Well, the license for the piece of software specifically is a financial asset, but the software itself doesn't do anything until you install it. You slap a database underneath it or something. You have a network to make sure that people can access the software through their browser or whatever. There's a lot more involved in service management than asset management. But all service management solutions have been built up historically around the asset database, the configuration management database. But what we believe is really important is the service. The assets are becoming less and less important as organizations move to SaaS solutions. They don't know what servers their services are running on. They don't care. They shouldn't need to care. What they care about is the service. But what do they care about that service? What does a manager need to know about these services? Well, there are actually just a few things that a manager needs to know. First of all, you care about the SLA targets being met in terms of availability. Do incidents get resolved in time? Things like that. Very simple. Are we meeting our SLA targets or not for the ERP service? If you take the ERP service as one of the long list of services that the IT department is responsible for, if we take that as the example, then the first thing we care about is whoever is responsible for providing that service, could be an internal team or an external party that takes care of it on behalf of the company. Are they meeting their SLAs? That's one thing. That is the traditional thing that service management tools provide, right? But it's actually the least interesting. We've learned. The second thing is, what is the user experience? That we find more interesting, and the reason why is that if, let's say, an organization makes they've selected Oracle Finance as their ERP solution, right? So they deploy it, they spend a ton of money on it, and maybe, yes, they're meeting their SLAs, but maybe the employees do not like it. Would be good to know if I were a CIO. I would like to know this information because the finance department is spending a lot of money recruiting financial talent, getting them onboarded in the organization, training them on the Oracle Finance tool, and then what we find out is that they have to work in that tool all day, but they hate it.
Not user-friendly.
Exactly.
Not efficient.
You might lose these these people, this talent again, which is very costly for organizations. So it's important to keep track of whether people actually like the tools that we make available to them, because the ERP service is still just a tool for the finance department, let's say, okay? So the other thing that a manager would like to know about the services that he or she is responsible for making available to the enterprise employees would be, what is the cost? Yes, so you have, are we meeting the SLA targets? If that's the case, fine. Are people happy? If that's the case, great.
Done.
But if it's super expensive, then maybe we should still take a look at whether we should replace it with a similar service, but more cost effective. So think of CIOs looking at certain services, like the email service, right? The email service is something that is very important to an organization. If email is down, no business is being transacted.
Yes.
It's just a fact.
Nightmare.
Exactly. But do we need to have a email system that is unique? Do we need a handmade email system by the best engineers possible? Should we build it ourselves perhaps if it's so important? The answer is no, doesn't matter. Email's a commodity. What we care about is that it always works, that it's fast and easy to use. Yeah.
These are the priorities.
For email, we don't need to distinguish ourselves as a company. We don't gain a competitive advantage as an organization by having a different email system, a uniquely customized email system. We can use any email system basically, whether it's Gmail or Exchange. Doesn't really matter. As long as it's always up, it's fast and it's user friendly, then all that matters is the cost, right? If we're paying a lot of money for an in-house Exchange environment, we might consider, well, why not use Gmail? That is a fair question to ask, right? So that is why it's not just the SLA targets or the user experience that is important, but the cost element is part of the equation, of course. And the last part is a compliance thing. Yeah. Are there any risks associated with a service? So, for example, we're running Exchange, but maybe that version of Exchange is no longer supported soon. So we have a risk that we need to take care of. Sorry, I need to take a sip of water. But it makes sense, right? So strategically, that is what we are providing now. We're building this out to make it really easy for CIOs, but the same applies for the HR department and the finance department. They also provide services. They do this to help the enterprise be successful. They need to know these pieces of information. Are we meeting our SLAs, our commitment to the employees? Are people happy with the services that we provide? How much do they cost? And are there any compliance risks? Yeah?
Ease of management, let's say, as a whole.
Yeah, but I understand that we're in IT, right? And people love to talk about technology. But in the end, it comes down to these things.
Yeah, all the departments of the enterprise, not just IT.
Very good. Yes, totally agree.
Thank you. So what are your expectations and goals for me on a global basis? And could you tell us about the importance of Turkish market for you? What will be your strategy, both globally and for Turkish market specifically?
Good. So we were founded in 2010. And we were founded in the Silicon Valley, and we bootstrapped, which is kind of cool in the Silicon Valley. But they think they're cool about everything. But it was a conscious decision for us to bootstrap, because what we intended to build at the time was really complex. Meaning we were building a new service management solution that would allow any customer that would use us to connect with each other, to connect their workflows. That's making use of the power that the cloud was promising at the time. And nobody was doing that. And still today, nobody's doing this in the service management space except us. But that's because it's really complex to manage all the contracts, the SLAs between all these parties, tracking that, reporting on it in an accurate way, and securing it all, because it has to be secure. So we knew that it was going to take years to just build the first version, the minimum viable product, right? So we decided to bootstrap. The founders, they had sold companies. I had sold my company. My CTO, he had sold his company, and we got together again to build the next thing, right? So we started to work. Yeah, we worked for a long time. Minimum viable product. We found the first customer, the really large global enterprise that was willing to implement it. There was a customer in Europe. So I moved to Europe.
From Silicon Valley to Europe.
Exactly. Well, if you're bootstrapping, yeah, what your concern is, when are my savings gonna run out? Yeah. At a certain point, you need to find a paying customer, or you need to take an investment from a venture capitalist, right? So we wanted to set the course, the direction, and the pace for the company so that we could get the quality to a level that we were happy with, not when the investor told us that they were happy with it. Yeah. So in the Silicon Valley, a lot of minimum viable products get released in the wild, and it is embarrassing. There's no thought about multilingual, multi-currency, multi-time zone things. Yeah, all these things, they think, oh, we'll worry about it later. Yeah, they haven't worried about automating all the tests so that when they do a new release, that they can quickly look at whether all the old stuff still works. They'll worry about it later. That is the mentality. Exactly. When we get a lot of money from an investor, we'll hire people to fix that. That is the mentality. We didn't want to do that. So we put our own savings in it. And at a certain point, we said, okay, we'd better find a really large customer to implement this for and to learn from that customer. So it happened to be a organization that's headquartered in Paris. So I moved to Paris, spent 2 years with that customer. We rolled out globally. They have hundreds of brands, that company. I don't know how many IT departments around the world. But then the first year we did all their IT departments around the world. And then we started to roll out to HR, to finance, through enterprise service management solution, because that's what we wanted to build as well. As well as all the new functionality, the SIAM support that the tool provides. But because of that, we landed in Europe. But also because of what For Me is capable of, linking organizations together, providers with enterprises. We went from an enterprise customer to a provider. That provider then has, let's say, 200 other customers that can also see the benefit of being able to work more seamlessly with that provider if they would also implement For Me. And this network effect started to spread in Europe, first of all. So at the time, we were still just 4 people.
Still 4 people.
Yeah. So yeah, we didn't have any sales. We had no marketing. That's only what we've had since 13 months now. Well, marketing for about 8 months. So what we always relied on the network effect for new customers to come on board. Today we have little over 260, 270 organizations on For Me. paying organizations. There's also a freemium plan. There are hundreds of organizations using For Me for free. But this is how we spread initially in Europe. So when the time came to set up a sales organization, we said, okay, it's probably most cost effective to do it in a place where we have referenceable, happy customers, so that they can leverage that success. And so we set up a sales force here in Europe. Eventually we'll do the same in the US, but for now we're focused on Europe. And the reason why we came to Turkey is that Turkey is a surprisingly interesting market. So from a demographic point of view, the population is growing quite rapidly, as opposed to northwestern Europe, where it's really slow, the population growth. But also, there's a relatively young population, well educated, and the size of the economy is increasing. So there are already a lot of large organizations in Turkey. I'm originally from the Netherlands, which is a country this big. Turkey is many times the size of the Netherlands. So we are doing a lot of business in the Netherlands and in Belgium and in France and in Germany and in the UK and in Denmark. But Turkey is a surprisingly welcoming country for a solution like this. They look at the solution, they realize, this is interesting. They look at it in detail, they ask whoever the technology people are who they trust to look at it in very much detail. Then they say, yeah, makes sense. And they actually do something with it rather than discussing it for 6 more months, which people in some countries like to do. So it is going really fast here in Turkey. So we've set up a team here in Turkey. We just yesterday I was lucky to hire another member of the team here. So, but we're also engaging partners.
I was about to ask this.
Implementation partners. So and also MSPs, so that customers, when they have For Me and they make use of services from different MSPs, we want to make sure that there are already some MSPs that they can connect with without having to build integrations or doing the manual retyping of work that needs to be passed to these external companies. So the infrastructure is growing very quickly here in Turkey.
How many partners do you have in Turkey right now, and what are your plans? What are your targets? And how do you select your partners? What are your criteria?
Yeah, so knowledge of service management is really important for our partners, obviously. So typically we like to work with partners that have been working in the past, implementing let's say older solutions, ServiceNow, Remedy, Micro Focus, Ivanti, the Sherwell solution, or Landesk or Heat. If they have that experience, that's a good foundation. They know how complex this is to implement in large organizations. The other thing we want from our partners is that they have a willingness to learn and they want to grow. If they're happy with where they are and they don't want to grow with us, then initially we may sell to a few customers, but we can continue to grow quite quickly. If they don't keep up with us and keep adding more implementation capacity, more consultants that we help them train, then we need to add more partners all the time. We'd rather work with a few partners here and help them grow with us. If you have too many partners, it becomes a little messy in a certain geography. But so now we have Bill G. Adams, an important partner. We're talking to a few more that we have handshake deals with, but they will be formalized shortly. There are already a few more active, slightly smaller partners, very specialized in service management. Yeah, so Bilge Adams, they do everything.
Yes.
Yeah, but they have a specialized team on for
Bilge
service
Adams'
management.
profession is much more.
Yeah, it's huge. And we very much like working with them. But we also like working with smaller partners that are very specialized. They only do service management. That combination tends to work quite well. Bilge Adams is, of course, very important because there are many customers that take services from them. If they then start using for me as well, they can pass work to Bilge Adams without any integration requirements. You will soon hear announcements of additional partners being added, well-known brands here in Turkey.
In Turkey,
yeah.
Great. So these are the things I wanted to ask.
Well,
Did we miss something? Do you want to add something?
Well, I just want to thank you for taking the time for this. But also, I want to just say that I've been really pleased with the reception that For Me has gotten when we showed our commitment to the Turkish market. When we set up a team here, the people were welcoming and actually actively helping us succeed with the team here. And it was a wonderful experience, and now we're seeing the results from this. So when we started, it was a year ago, March last year. Now we already have several customers live here in Turkey, happy. They are helping us by being a reference for us to sell into more organizations in Turkey. And I have to say that in terms of the growth rate, Turkey is now our fastest growing market.
Really?
Of course, we started from a small base, so it's relatively easy, but we're very excited about this market.
Do you have any plans or strategies like using Turkey as a bridge to reach to Middle East or North Africa, etc.?
We've been discussing it, but it's too early for us. We really want to focus on a few geographies that we've selected. So the ones sort of in northwestern Europe. So the DACH region, Germany, Austria, Switzerland, the Nordics, Finland, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, then the UK and Ireland, the Benelux, and now France is coming along really nicely, Spain, and even Italy. So we're quite pleased with that. And of course, Turkey is red hot for us right now. So that is what we want to focus on. The next major step is most likely to be a sales organization in the United States. We have not focused on the United States at all. Neither have we on the Middle East. Although I must say, South Africa is a very good market for us already. I don't know exactly why, but we have quite a few large customers there that act as references, and we have every month we're getting new customers joining there. So South Africa is very interesting, but culturally very different from the Middle East, of course. So the Middle East will need to do something. Once we decide to go in there, we'll probably need to make a commitment like we have here in Turkey, set up a whole team there, and then start working there. So we're not looking at Turkey as a place, as like a bridge into other markets. Turkey in itself is a large market for us.
Okay then. Thank you so much for the details. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Fijital etkinliğimize katıldığınız için çok teşekkür ediyoruz. BThaber Şirketler Grubu'nun düzenlediği yeni etkinliklerde tekrar bir araya gelmek dileğiyle. İyi bir gün dileğiyle. Teşekkürler.
Are you looking for a smart way to coordinate your internal and external services? For Me is the complete service management platform that enables seamless collaboration between multiple service providers. For.me's cutting-edge architecture enables cross-enterprise visibility and control of services. For.me is built to adapt to the speed of demand. Any new service can be added in no time. For.me is really fast to implement and offers complete licensing flexibility. Transform your service delivery while saving costs and improving quality. Visit the For.me website and request a demo now.